The Batman Part 2 is officially on its way because Matt Reeves finally turned in a script. Can I get an amen? Because I was genuinely worried. I thought we were not going to get this movie. So today's video is going to be about my top 5 villains that I want to see in Robert Pattinson's Batman trilogy. If you're new here, please subscribe, and if you're watching, please like the video. Without further ado, let's get into this list. In the one spot at the top of my board, I really want to see the Court of Owls at some point of time in this trilogy. If you don't know who the Court of Owls are, they are a criminal organization. They're like a secret society. They have history with a lot of the wealthiest people in Gotham. They do things around murders and political influence throughout the whole entire history of Gotham. They're kind of considered like the Illuminati in a sense. And the reason why I love these guys so much is because it's not really under one person. There's a bunch of them. They're called Talons. They're trained, they're enhanced in strength, speed, and durability. And they always give Batman a challenge. Yeah, one of the most famous Batman comic book runs is Batman with the Court of Owls. They were teased a little bit in the Penguin series. That's why I think it would be realistic for us to get them at some point in time. I think we'll get them in the third movie, not the second movie, because Batman is still pretty much like underdeveloped, I would say. And if the Court of Owls, if they were as they are now, if they went and fought the Batman, it would not be a challenge for them. I think they would be better as like a main villain, but with a bunch of side villain characters around them, maybe the characters that are working for them, etc. Because they're not really a villain that you just see face to face and you just fight for 2 hours of the movie. There's somebody that's going to be undercovered and Batman has to go solve this case, trying to figure out what their purpose are and where they're at. And then that's when, like, at the end of the movie, we can have a huge like Court of Owls scene, and that's where things can really kind of pick up off. Easily my favorite Batman rogue of all time. Second on my list, who I think is the most realistic for a Batman trilogy, is going to be Hush, because there's a lot of background between him and Bruce Wayne as a character. His real name is Thomas Elliot, and like a lot of Batman villains, him and Bruce Wayne actually grew up together, and they're both kind of like similar characters. Like, he was owed a fortune and then his parents ended up dying, and then instead of turning into Batman, he basically turned into like a villain and became like Hush. It's pretty simple, but he makes sure to go after Bruce Wayne and Batman. A lot of Batman villains don't know who Bruce Wayne is. Well, even if they do not interfere with him and they strictly go for Batman. But Hush goes after both. He's a marksman, he's super smart, he's a really good strategist. He's just another one of those villains that give Batman a challenge. And I know a lot of people are probably like, well, that's too similar to the Riddler in the actual Batman movie. Like, what's the difference maker between the two? The Riddler made this a whole entire detective game. That was like his format. He wasn't really a marksman. He was just the master and brains behind a bunch of destruction. Hush is completely hands-on. Everything that he is doing is from himself. He doesn't have a team with him. He's not sending people out to go do things. Everything is hands-on by himself. I think this will be really good for a final fight between Batman and Hush. I think we get to see a lot of more different action sequences with these two characters. And this will help us tap into Bruce Wayne as a character, because we don't really get that a lot in the Batman movie. It was definitely a different Batman that I have to get used to. We got to see like the more depressed and sad side of him. We didn't get to see like the billionaire playboy side of him. And I understand, but this will give us a reason to kind of like tap into his background and what happened to him in the beginning times with his family and a childhood friend that he grew up with. And the third villain that I really want to see is Scarecrow. I think he needs to make his return in the Batman franchise. We did get like a tease of him in the Penguin series, even though those rumors kind of got shut down on who the actor actually is and if he really was Scarecrow or not. But he needs to make a return with how Gotham is right now. He could be selling a drug. They could have the fear toxin. I know the Red Bliss is like the drug that's going on right now in Gotham. He could just easily make his way in there and have an immediate impact off the rip. Seeing this version of Batman get fear toxin and literally tripping out and stuff will just be so cool to see. In totality, I think he does have to be a side villain. I think he would give Batman a huge challenge, but I think he would be better suited as a villain that distracts Batman, gives him some problems, over the real villain that's going to be the main villain throughout the movie. It would be very interesting to see who he works with, if he does work with the Penguin or not, because that's the only way I see him tied in right now. Supplying the bliss and maybe supplying something else that is considered a fear toxin. I think if you can give them the creative side of what the fear toxin would do to people, I think that would be really cool to watch, and it will stick around to that horror theme. In my fourth spot, a villain that I really want to see that might not be too popular is Hugo Strange. I almost thought that this was Hugo Strange in the Penguin series, but it ended up not being him. The thing with him is that he actually knows Batman's identity because of how smart he is, and he always threatens to blackmail him and let it known to the world. And because of that, he tries to trade that with letting him do experiments on criminals, patients. Just like most Batman villains, they literally all have mental problems. They're sick in the head and they like to do stuff to other people. They're not really anything crazy. He tries to take over politically by causing fear and stuff like that in others and just tricking and manipulating people. I think it would be really good for a good storyline. And I think it's somebody that can mess with Batman and Bruce Wayne mentally. I think it would give him a challenge and make him face tougher decisions. And that's the type of sacrifice that I really want him to see. He can't be a main villain because, like I said, he's not too big enough of a problem. Very similar to Batman 1, how there was the Riddler, there was the Joker that was in jail, and then there was the Penguin, and then they had Catwoman, Falcone. Like, there should be a lot of villains in this movie as well. Now, for my fifth and final spot, it is someone else that is also very close to Bruce Wayne, and that is going to be Two-Face. Harvey Dent is very important to Batman's character, and that's why I really want to see him inside this trilogy. I know all these villains seem like they have a lot in common, and they all just seem way too similar. But Matt Reeves made it very known that he does not want this version of Batman to be fantastical, because the DCU version of Batman is going to be very fantastical. And that just fits his franchise. Like, we're not gonna see Killer Croc. I don't think we're gonna see Mr. Freeze. These villains are just way too powerful for a grounded version of Batman. Even the Court of Owls is pretty much pushing it. But Harvey Dent is so important, again, to Bruce Wayne's character. Very similar to how Thomas Elliot was. But Harvey Dent is on the political stand. He's running for mayor. He has a lot more money. I think that would be so cool for scenes to have. I think it will have a huge impact on this movie. And you can have him as like a main villain if you truly wanted to. And something that you could really do with Two-Face that I think you can't really do with a lot of the other villains, Harvey Dent ends up being a really, really good guy, and he tries to do best for Gotham. And the main thing that happens between him is that Bruce makes a decision that might not save him, and that's how he gets his Two-Face side. And he starts to build that hatred. One side is really considering and nice, and the other side is pretty much pure evil. And that other side of Two-Face takes over for a lot of decisions, even if they do flip the coin. Unaliving people right in front of Bruce, unaliving people right in front of Batman, unaliving people in front of the whole entire city. That could really take a toll on a movie, and you can't really do that with everybody else, because they're pretty much pure evil. So that's what separates Two-Face between the others. Now here's some honorable mentions of villains that I think would work, but then there's some that I don't think would work. So I think Mad Hatter would work. I think he's just another psychopath. He'll tap into Bruce and Batman's mindset and make him think crazy things and have him go insane. But I think it's very too similar to the fear toxin for Scarecrow. So that's why I didn't really put him on here. Another one that I do think would work is Joker, but I'm just so tired of seeing him, honestly. He's the best Batman villain of all time, and I understand that. I do think you have to include him because he's so important into Batman's character, and he has to be inside this trilogy. And I don't think we'll get him in the fantastical version of Batman in the DCU unless we have all the Robins there, which I think we will. But Joker is currently in jail right now. I think if he breaks out of jail and he causes a bunch of destruction, oh my gosh, that would be insane. When you talk about side villains, he would be at the top of my list. I think he should get his own spin-off show personally, and show why he got captured by Batman to begin with. That's what I think they should do with his character. Professor Pig is somebody that I wouldn't be mad seeing either, for a lot of reasons. He cuts up a lot of people's bodies. He tries to make them better and stronger, and I think you can have Batman go up against these weird like zombie creatures. It will stick with the horror theme. I think it will be a somewhat of a mystery, but again, he has to be a side villain because Batman is someone that could take him down so easily once he put his detective hats on and finds him. He's not the Riddler. He doesn't make 1,000 riddles and problems for you to solve just to find him. I don't think he would be that hard of a villain to defeat. There's actually a villain named James Gordon Jr., which is obviously James Gordon's son and Barbara Gordon's brother. And Jeffrey Wright, the actor that plays Gordon in the Batman, actually made a video on this, and I did a TikTok on it, and I thought it was very interesting.
With the Batman 2 coming up, I want to ask you, is there anyone in the rogues gallery of Batman villains that you would love to one day take on, and what actor you'd love to play that character?
Gordon actually has a son who becomes somewhat nefarious.
Jeffrey Wright knows ball. That's all I'm gonna say. So like I said, James Gordon Jr. is the son, and he basically grew up around these villains in Gotham and seen what his dad and stuff goes through. And I remember his story because like at a young age, he would kill Barbara Gordon's friend and hide her and stuff like that. And as he got older, he kind of developed into like that psycho mentality. Again, like most Batman villains are. I think it would be a cool idea because James Gordon and Batman have a really good relationship already, and then you could could indicate Barber and stuff. I think the time skips would be too much. I don't think you could introduce him in a second movie. I think it would have to maybe be a third movie. But I just thought it was very interesting because the actor in the movie is the one that explained like he would love to see that. Robert Pattinson was the one that also mentioned the Court of Owls as well. I remember doing a video on that.
I was definitely kind of thinking Court of Owls is probably going to be in the sequel. It definitely seems like...
say it!
Well, I mean, I'm literally just guessing. I just keep saying it.
Court of Owls would be dope. Good thing it's not in this film.
Or is it?
I saw there was mentions as well, like I said earlier, Mr. Freeze. I just don't see him being in this movie. I think he's just too strong for this current state of Batman. I know it's winter time, so it would be cool to see him, but I just don't think it would really work. They would have to minimize the role, and that's why I feel like it would take away a lot from his character, but he's easily one of the best written Batman villains of all time with his background story. You really do feel for him, so I wouldn't be mad seeing him here. I saw a lot of people say because there's a flood that Killer Croc should be in this movie. Brother, a Killer Croc would absolutely destroy Batman. Let's not have this discussion. And the last honorable mention I would have is Bane. I really didn't want to see Bane. I'd rather see him against a fantastical version of Batman inside the DCU. You would have to minimize Bane a lot. And I really want to see like a crazy version of Bane later on, just not in this trilogy. Those were my options that I want to see by the end of the Batman trilogy, or even in Batman Part 2. I can't believe it's about to be 5 years since this movie, when it will come out. I think it's going to come out in like 2027. Just insane. But when it comes to filmmaking, you would rather these writers and directors take their time on a movie instead of rushing it, regardless of how bad we want it. So that'll be it for today's video. Once again, if you're new, please subscribe. And if you like what you watch, please come back later and like the video. For short form content of me, follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm active on both. Let me know what you guys want to see next. I'll catch y'all in the next video.